Well, today is the 5th of October. It's about 4:30 in the afternoon. I'm sitting on my sister's doorstep looking after my youngest niece for the day. So I decided to make this video. This is interesting. I have one sister. I have just her and I don't have my own children, but my sister's got 4. And their ages 30, let's see, 31, 25, 21, and 12. Yeah, do the math, right? So, the 21-year-old, good kid. She just got married about 6 months ago. She married a military guy, and she's living in Japan. Just moved there recently. But I'm gonna call her Rose. It's not a real name, but I'll call it Rose. And she's a good kid. When she was young, let's just say she had I exposed her to Sasquatch when she was young, when she was little. Scared the daylights out of her. So here she is now as a young adult. And I was talking to her the other day, Zoom, via Zoom. And her boyfriend, her now husband, they used to love to hike. They traveled everywhere. They were going all over the country and hiking and camping. And I said to her, I didn't know you guys were doing all that stuff. And I said to her, so when did you, and that's why I was point blank with her. So you must have had a Bigfoot encounter by now. I'm sure you did. And I looked, we're doing it on the phone. And she looked, she kind of looked at me. She says, well, yeah, there were 2 incidents. This is what she tells me. I can't believe she didn't tell me this before. So she says, the first incident, we were camping at Joshua Tree National Forest in Southern California. And she said, they set up camp, they're sleeping at night, and they have somebody camping next to them about 10 feet away. She said they had a very elaborate setup there, very elaborate. She said about 2 o'clock in the morning, a couple rangers show up at the people's tent next door, and these people are like flipping out. Woke them up. So they're laying in the tent. Rose and her husband-to-be are laying there in the tent, and they're listening to the conversation. And the 2 people that were in this tent were going, I am telling you, there is somebody walking around our tent and touching the tent and just wouldn't go away, and they were walking all around it. And the rangers were trying to convince her and this whatever couple was next to them was trying to convince them that it was some animal. They got mountain lions, bobcat, coyote, that kind of thing. And they go, no, this was walking on 2 legs, and it was touching the tent with its hand. There's somebody out here messing with us. And the rangers couldn't calm them down, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, they packed up their entire set up and left, gone. She said they were freaked out. And I said to her, so what was next to their tent? Were they surrounded by trees? She said no. It were big boulders around the back of their tent and a lot of scrub brush around them. And I said, oh, that's interesting. And she says, yeah, I didn't think about it until you just mentioned it. And then she said, and we had another incident when we were hiking in the Rockies in Colorado. Now, she didn't tell me what particular place this was. I should have asked her. She told me it was snowing, or there was snow on the ground. There was snow on the ground. It wasn't snowing. And they were way up there. There was nobody there. They were on a path, and she said she felt like something was watching them, and it was creeping her out. And she heard something walking when she was walking. And she kept telling her husband-to-be, hey, there is something following us, and it's walking. We are walking. He said, no, it's just the trees creaking. And she's like, I'm telling you, there's something walking when we were walking. And she saw footprints. She found footprints that were not on the trail, but were along the tree line that was near the trail. And they went and looked at them, and her husband said, this is a bear print. She said, that's not a bear. I asked her, were there claw marks? She says, no, there were no claw marks. Look like a big bear print. Looks like some of the footprints you got, but it was bigger. And I said, yeah. She said, I was starting to get creeped out. And so we just came back, and she could hear it following. And she knows that her husband-to-be heard the sounds, but he didn't want her to freak out, so we just played it cool. And I started laughing, and I said, why don't you tell me this before? She said, I didn't really think about it until you mentioned it. And I said, well, don't be surprised if you're going to have more of this stuff, because it kind of goes with the family. So don't be surprised. And I told her, it used to freak you out when you're a little girl. She says, that's not the stuff that scares me. It's that dogman stuff that you told me about. And I said, well, I wouldn't worry about that if the big ones are around. If it's the big guys, they'll keep that stuff away from you, but I won't worry about it. But she took it pretty well. Now, why am I sharing this? I'm sharing this because this stuff is so common that you wouldn't believe it. There are people around you that have had experiences with these beings that you wouldn't know about, but you don't really know how to ask the question. I have a neighbor who's a hunter, and when he moved in maybe 15 years ago, and I started to get to know him, I started to ask him things, as I was getting to know the guy. Single dad, taking care of his daughter, nice guy. And my question to him was, what was the most odd experience that you ever had while you were hunting? And he started to think. He says, you know what? He said, I was bow hunting in a place not far from our home. And he said that I was getting low light. I got a doe. I hit her, but she didn't drop. And he said he was tracking her with the blood trail. And he lost the trail. Couldn't find it. So he said, it was getting dark. He said, I'll come back to, next day and find her. And he comes back the next day, and he finds her. He's looking around. He finds the doe that he hit, except she's 15 feet up in a tree. with all the gutted out. Her, the lungs, heart, kidneys, guts are all gone, but she's gutted out up in the tree 15 feet. And I said to him, so how did I get up in the tree? Well, it had to be a big cat. I told him, we don't have mountain lions here. We just don't. He said, well, I talked to a ranger, and he says he's seen them. Well, I'm sure they're here, and they're not officially recognized as being here because there are transients that do come through. As far as an established breeding population where I'm at, not really. I mean, not officially, but there's not transient ones moving through, yes. Young males looking for territory, yes. But not as far as a resident breeding population, no. And I told him that. And I said, besides, mountain lions do not put their kills up in trees. Now, despite what some people will tell you, they don't do that. The only big cat that does that is leopards. Leopards put their kills in a tree to keep the lions from getting them. And hyenas. That is their MO, that's their skill set. That's what they are designed to do. That's part of their DNA. It's not part of a mountain lion's DNA to put a kill up in a tree. It's just something they don't do. They typically bury their prey. They'll drag it under some brush or something and cover it up with dirt and leaves and stuff and come back and feed on it and kill. That's their MO. That's what they do. Now, is it possible the one can put one up in a tree? I guess it's possible, but pound for pound, the strongest cat is the leopard. And that's what they do. So I just kind of laughed because he, in his mind, he can't fathom it being what I told him did that. He can't fathom that. Maybe, you know, and I've showed him the collection of the footprints that I've got. Show him, hey, look, these guys are real, whether you like it or not. These things are real. So in case you just stumbled onto my channel, yeah, it's a weird thing. The Sasquatch Bigfoot phenomena is real, whether you like it or not. And I thought it was nonsense too, until you see one. You see one, it kind of changes your life. So I'm just saying, I just thought it was funny. And you would be surprised how many people have had experiences like this. It'll boggle your mind. You just have to know how to ask the right questions to get people to tell you this. And I've discovered that the easiest way to get somebody to tell you this is, first of all, be serious. You don't giggle. And you make sure that you are genuine about what you are going to ask them and take what they tell you seriously. Don't laugh at it. Make them feel safe enough to tell you. And what I always do when I ask people is, I'll say, well, you spend a lot of time out in the outdoors, you hike or whatever. What was the weirdest thing you ever experienced? Just, you know, that's the safest way to ask somebody without them feeling uncomfortable, if that makes any sense. So anyway, I thought I would share that. You know, not my usual ranting on a porch somewhere, right? Till next time.